When it comes to the Marvel rivals, the thing that makes it stand out is the heroes. Right? The fact we have unique abilities make it different from a lot of other tactical and hero shooters, and being creative with those set of abilities, including team-up abilities, is extremely enjoyable. And I give a credit to Marvel Rivals devs who really try to make awesome creative heroes. Some of them may not work as intended, but I hope that they can buff it or fix them in the future. Today, I want to talk about fan-made heroes, and by the end of this video you're going to be wishing for some of these heroes actually make it in. And this actually can be at some point, cause devs said that they can take inspiration from some of the community creations. Alright, so the first hero we're gonna talking about is Agent Anti-Venom. With a difficulty of 3 stars, he's going to be a strategist. So, his left-click attack is a symbiotic railgun. After a small wind-up, fire and beam of symbiote mass from a multi-gun, damaging enemies and healing allies. Hitting enemies enough causes anti-cure. Team-up abilities. Anti-Venom can share his abilities with Groot and Venom, making their next attack both apply anti-cure to the enemies and cleanse themselves. I think this one is pretty interesting and could be a really good counter pick for a lot of healers or the support tactics. Anyway, let's jump to the abilities. First one is a combat medic. Activate 4 additional symbiote tendrils that target both nearby allies and enemies with symbiotic railguns. Your main attack also gets infinite ammo. Next one is genetic memory. Activate this ability to make all enemies nearby or with anti-cure take a small amount of damage and be seen through walls for a limited time. This ability removes anti-cure when activated. Pretty cool small damage and control ability for the vision through the walls. I really like this concept. Next one is a healing lunge. Shoot out tendril and launch yourself to the targeted ally, as well as boosting all healing effects received by them for a short time. Seems like a good escape ability for me, also with a pretty good synergy. The right-click attack is anti-bomb. Use a multi-gun to fire a gravity-affected projectile that explodes on contact. This bomb cleanses allies but damages and anti-cures enemies. Honestly, all this kit seems like a pretty good one and might be really balanced if the damage is not that high as it could be. So let's jump to the passives. First one is a slip and slash. Whenever near a wall, hold space to slide and run along it. Pretty nice. And the second one is friend or foe. Cleansed allies get all of their debuffs removed and are immune to debuffs for a short amount of time. Anti-cured enemies get all of their buffs removed and cannot be buffed for a short amount of time. Well, that seems pretty interesting, but might be way too powerful. Overall, I really like this concept, so now let's jump to the next one. And the second one is a Mr. Fantastic himself. With a difficulty of a 4 stars, he is going to be the Vanguard, and his left attack is a slingshot. Send long-range punches by elongating his arms forward. The right attack is arching punch. Stretches his arm in an arch, striking enemies from the top. I think this one is pretty interesting. I really want to see how this arching punch would work in the game, because in case this could go around the walls, well, that could be way too strong. Now let's jump to the abilities. First one is a rubber ball, which is an ultimate. Stretch and roll into a ball and move by bouncing off the ground and walls. Bouncing into enemies deals damage. Seems pretty fun, and I really want to try this in a game, so it could be a really good one for control points on the control point maps. Next one is a slither. Move by stretching only your upper body. Press again to pull your lower body. Interesting one. Seems like a good ability to reach out some top places, but not sure how useful this will be, because this is still a pretty close range character. Well, at least I hope so, because if Slingshot and Arching Punch are super far range attacks, that could be a bit too strong. Next one is a human bubble. Stretch and swirl around an ally and nearby allies to defend them from incoming damage. So, kinda shield damage for the Mr. Fantastic, seems good. Passive is Elastic Body. Mr. Fantastic takes reduced damage and is immune to enemy applied control when stretched, but rather it's forcibly retracted. I think it's pretty balanced one and definitely a good one for the Vanguard role. Space is Sprint Boost. Hold space to perform a high jump. Fits the hero super well and better than double jump for him for sure. And the final one is Retract. hold left shift to retract your stretched body. Also pretty interesting. I'm not sure how this would work because stretching in fact would make your character super big target for the damage, for the bullets, for any projectiles. So might be really hard to play Mr. Fantastic, but still pretty interesting concept, and I really want to see some kind of this in the game. And now we jump right to the Sentry, who is really overpowered character in the Marvel Rivals comics with unlimited powers, and in the Marvel Rivals, in this concept, he should be super hard character to play according to the difficulty of 5 stars. So the first is attack with a left click of the mouse, Burning Hands. Sentry shoots solar beams from his hands to heal allies and build Twisted Duality meter or deal damage to enemies. Pretty interesting, but what is Twisted Duality? It's a passive. Each time Sentry heals an ally, he builds Twisted Duality meter. Sentry can decrease Twisted Duality at a slower pace by attacking enemies. This guy is strategist by the way, so he's kind of a support hero. So what about team-up abilities? It's a Fear of the Void. While the Sentry is his Void form, Hulk and Loki gain damage reduced at faster ultimate build-up. Additionally, Hulk gains increased damage while Loki gains increased healing. Pretty good team-up ability which boosts healing and shielding of the allies. I really like this one, so let's jump right to the ultimate, which is 1 million exploding suns. Sentry unleashes a gigantic solar explosion from his body, which heals allies, builds Twisted Duality meter, and pushes enemies back. I think this one is pretty cool, and I like to see what's coming next. And next one is Unstoppable Force. Sentry flies forward at the speed of light, damaging enemies and pushing them back. Sentry leaves a trail of golden energy behind him, which heals himself and allies. Additionally, Sentry enters a brief state of free flight. Well, actually, this kind of a swift teleport or dash ability with healing effect, which seems pretty nice for the strategist. Next one is Immovable Object. Sentry surrounds himself with a force field, which absorbs all incoming damage. Pretty good strong shield, seems like a magnetic one to me, so maybe some kind of changes would be appreciated here. Next one is a right-click attack, Golden Eyes. Sentry shoots short-range solar beams from his eyes to deal damage to the enemies and push them back. Well, this might be way too strong for the simple attack, because pushing enemies back on the payloads maps or the point control maps might be way too powerful, depends on how far it pushes the enemies back. Next one is passive, but this time it's another one, Call of the Void. Once Sentry has filled up Twisted Duality, he automatically transforms into the Void, while losing his healing abilities and gain new attacks and abilities, which seems pretty cool to me, and let's see who the Void actually is. So the Void seems like to be another character with a difficulty of 4 stars, and his first attack is Molecular Disintegration. Void shoots corruption beams from his hand to cause damage to enemies and inflict them with a Void Curse. Cursed victims take additional damage over time. Whoa, that's pretty strong one, seems like a DPS basic tech, which looks pretty strong. But what about team-up abilities? So the first one is pretty similar to what the Sentry had, but the second one is interesting. It's Voidlings. Every time Sentry's allies die while he is in his Void form, they turn into the shadowy version of themselves for a brief period of time and can continue to fight. Voidlings can't receive healing or use health packs. Well, this might be way too OP if it's not have huge cooldown, because it's actually what Adam Warlock have, but for the brief period of time, and the heroes who are revived cannot do anything until they stop at some point and get their physical body back. So might be too OP, but the concept is really interesting and creative. But what about the abilities? First one and the ultimate one is Enter the Void. The Void transforms into his ultimate form, massively growing in size and strength and gain bonus health. So seems like a Hulk's ultimate, and honestly, I would like to see something else. Left shift is Infitendrils. Void summons Infitendrils of Darkness. Infitendrils travel to the ground and straight line, damaging enemies, push them back, and apply Void Curse. Pretty good one, I like this. So the next one is the Negative Zone. Void opened up a portal to the Negative Zone in front of himself. Void can choose to leave the portal open and absorb incoming damage to summon the Voidling, and close the portal. The Voidlings lock onto the random target, runs to them and explodes to cause damage. Seems like a combination of a Penny Parker spider mines and some kind of octopus from the Moor, but still pretty interesting. The next one is Void Curse. Void activates Void Curse on an enemy, ending the duration of the curse early but slowing the enemy's attack and movement speed. Pretty interesting controllability concept, which can be really strong, but I believe that with some balance that could be definitely playable one. So let's jump to the passive one, for the humanity's sake. Each time Void attacks his enemies, he builds up for the humanity's sake meter. Void gains additional for humanity's sake if his ally takes damage while they're near him. And he also gains the new activated ability, which called Golden Guardian of God. Once Sentry has filled up for the humanity's sake, he gained the option to transform into the Sentry, while losing his Void abilities and regaining his regular abilities. Upon activation, Void turns into the Sentry and activates Sentry Ultimate, healing allies and pushing back enemies. So overall, I think that these three designs are pretty dope. These are strategists and one guard, which are really needed to the game because we have a lot of duelists so far, so I really want to see this in action. Anyway guys, tell me your thoughts about this, who is the best one from this list, and tell me which character do you want to see in the game by yourself.